Good evening. Welcome to the Sunday edition of India at 9. Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar has spoken exclusively to Network 18. It's the first time after India conducted surgical strikes across the line of control in response to the Uri terror attack. Excerpts of that interview coming up. We'll also take up some of the very interesting quotes that he has given with our panel of experts who will be joining us in the course of this show. But here are the headlines.
It was a success. It has been already very clearly stated.
Defence Minister's first interview after the surgical strikes across the line of control. Parrikar tells Network 18 that the operation was successful.
We definitely keep ourselves prepared for any eventuality. That is the job of Defence Minister.
We are prepared for any eventuality. That's the strongest message yet post the surgical strikes across the LOC to Pakistan in this exclusive interview to Network 18.
If someone could enter, there could be some gaps. There could be some gaps in the SOPs.
It's also the Defence Minister's first admission of lapses that led to the Uri attack. He says there could have been lapses. He backs the Army Chief's decision to transfer the Uri brigade commander. And this edition of India at 9 is going to be dedicated to that interview and some of the very interesting quotes that he's given in that interview, and we'll try and analyze that with our guest. But first, let's bring you up to speed. Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar has spoken for the first time to a TV channel post the surgical strikes which were carried out by India last Thursday in response to the Uri terror attack. He sounded a very confident note by saying that yes, India is prepared for any kind of eventuality. This, of course, in anticipation of a response from Pakistan to those surgical strikes. Let's listen in to Manohar Parrikar.
Most people across party lines have called this a defining moment in India's history because we have chosen to go across the LOC. Your response on the manner in which the surgical strikes were conducted and the implications hereon?
It was a success. It has been already very clearly stated. Besides that, I think there is no other comments I'd like to offer at this stage.
How ready is India for an escalation which is not localized?
I will not speculate anything, but we have been always aiming at being prepared. My mother used to tell me, if you enter a forest for a hunting of a rabbit, you should be prepared for a tiger. But I feel that the borders under these prime ministers are quite safe and people need not unnecessarily worry. This is a very responsible government and responsible country.
You are going to the forest to hunt for a rabbit, then be prepared for a tiger. Let's go across to our two guests. G Parthasarathy is former Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan, and Lieutenant General retired Shankar Prasad is former Director General of Infantry. Lieutenant General Prasad, let me start with that. He says that the strikes were successful. He said that the message has gone across. And most importantly, and you've been on any number of shows post those strikes saying that, look, there will be some form of response from Pakistan, but the Defence Minister saying that we are ready for any eventuality. Do you feel that he's done enough and said enough to reassure the nation that we have the capability to deal with whatever it is that response is from Pakistan?
I needn't say any more than what the Defence Minister has said and what the military has already achieved over the last incident or the last operation. Look, Javed, it is unfortunate that we haven't used the military for a long time in as far as counter-terrorism operations are concerned. We have demonstrated not only to our enemies across the border, but to the entire world that today we sit amongst nations like the United States of America, where, if you recall, Osama bin Laden, when he was being neutralized, the entire proceedings were being watched from an operational room in the United States by the President of the United States.
Yeah.
We are now reached that table. And today the military of the government of India is at a level where the military of the United States, the military of Israel is. And therefore, for anyone to feel or to doubt what the Defence Minister said, I think will be very naive.
Okay.
Indian military is prepared. Indian military needs to become stronger as we get along. Indian military can respond to any political requirements that we may have today. Indian military is a participant to the strategic response that may be getting developed. Indian military is ready for a tactical response. Indian military is ready for a knee-jerk response, to quote the Raksha Mantri, which he said earlier. And Indian military is ready for a strategic response, which will be well-considered response in due course of time.
Okay, let me get in G Parthasarathy. He's also said, the Defence Minister, Mr. Parthasarathy, that diplomatic activity has given us a lot of impetus in combating terrorism. We have been able to put across India's point of view on terrorism. Do you feel that the last, say, 3-4 weeks or so have really sort of firmly etched India's position and point of view on terrorism, not just within the South Asian region, now that the SAARC summit has been formally postponed by Nepal, but also amongst the major global players, whether it's the US, UK, France, Germany, Japan, maybe to a lesser extent even China?
Look, as a former military man, not with General Shankar Prasad's experience, but also as a member of the Naresh Chandra committee, let me tell you a couple of things. Yes, what the Defence Minister said was reassuring. But technology keeps changing, modernizing by the day. And therefore, we have to keep abreast of that and give our soldiers that. And I would also suggest that the 1.7% of GDP that the defense forces are provided for the defense of this country is totally inadequate. I mean, there's still many gaps in our acquisitions which need to be filled.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about 36 Rafales. The original target was 126. Are we filling up our Air Force with the same pace as the attrition taking place? But anyway, those are issues to be looked in. Coming into the political side, let me tell you that never have I seen such tremendous international support for India. After Uri, Bhupen, not only have, traditional friends we expected, our South Asian neighbors, many of them, we expected Japan, we expected the US, but the way Russia has condemned it, the way China has kept rather unduly silent on what has transpired, the way 4 major Arab countries have backed us and expressed sympathy with us. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. This is unprecedented. And the fact that, my friend Ambassador Maliha Lodi, she's an extremely competent person, but she's also faced up with a more than competent person in Syed Akbaruddin.
Yeah.
In the UN, they could get no traction in the UN Security Council.
Okay.
Yes, the Secretary General did his job of saying that if both parties ask, I would be happy to help.
Yeah.
But beyond that, nothing.
Okay.
And,
just give me a moment.
I have, if I may say
just give me a moment, Mr. Parthasarathy, because there are so many other portions of that interview that we'd like to play. And one other important part, I'm going to play that out now, is the minister talking about the lapses, possible lapses that led to what happened in Uri. And he has completely backed the Army Chief, General Suhag, in the decision that he took to move out the Uri Brigade commander. Let's listen in to that chunk, and I'm going to come back to our guests.
One of the things that you've been working on, and this happened post-Pathankot, was to really strengthen the security apparatus around military establishments. Do you believe that whatever needed to be done has been done? Is there a sense of urgency now to deal with that post what we've seen happen in Uri?
I think security is a mindset. The instruments, requirements, all has to be there. But it also is a mindset. Some person you might have seen, they are more, they immediately understand the risk. Even while driving a car, forget about security. Some people anticipate dangers and they are good drivers.
Some
people don't anticipate danger and they meet with an accident. So same way, security is also
a problem
a mindset.
At the level of an individual?
It also depends on one who commands the area. His mindset has to be improved to a level where the security alertness has to be there. We are trying to sensitize the commanders, the troops on security aspect, so that security improves while providing all the requisite infrastructure.
Is this the reason why the brigade commander was moved out?
I think that is a decision of the Chief of Army, because he must have definitely found some lapses. or at least he wants to investigate apparent lapses or some terrorist entering a camp, definitely has to. See, some people make a big issue out of it. It's a common sense. If you meet with an accident on a car, there has to be the real accident by freakness, like your axle getting broken and then you meet an accident, is very rare. There has to be mistake by one of the
So you're saying that there have been internal lapses?
What I'm saying is, if someone could enter, I'm not saying lapses, if someone could enter, there could be some gaps, there could be some gaps in the SOPs. So let the commander or let the chief of army do his proper inquiry. Till then he is not, as they say that in order to have an impartial inquiry, you cannot have the same person in that position. That's why it has been, they call it attachment. He will be fully cooperating in that inquiry. Once the inquiry is over, we'll find out whether there are need to improve the SOP, standard operating process, or whether there is a human error or whether something else happened.
Go back to Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad. You know, while we talk about the surgical strikes, the fact is the Army instituted a court of inquiry to find out what possible lapses led to this. The moving out of the brigade commander, I think the minister is saying that was a decision taken by the Army chief, and he fully backs the Army chief in that decision. When are we going to begin to ask those hard questions?
First of all, let me apologize for giving your name wrong in my first
that's all right.
interjection.
That's all right.
Sorry for that. Now let me come to the important part of this whole story. Please understand once and for all, the Army is the last organization which will cover any weakness. Because if we do cover a weakness, that weakness is going to repeat time and time again, costing us more lives than 19. Therefore, it is the principle of the military to go to the bottom of each incident and find out what is right and what is wrong. If anything good has happened, the guy will be rewarded for it. If anything incorrect or poorly done has happened, he will be punished for it. In order to arrive at a good decision, in order to do an unbiased inquiry, it is important that the people directly involved in it are kept away from it. Therefore, let us not assume today that this particular brigade commander who has been removed from this job, basically to enable do a proper inquiry, has been sacked.
No, but let's for a moment. No, General Prasad, let's for a moment. No, one second. Let's for a moment leave aside the brigade commander. I'm asking you a more fundamental question. Do you believe there were lapses that led to the Uri attack? I mean, it's a brigade headquarters after all. It's not a civilian hospital or something, or a cinema theatre.
Yes. If 19 people get killed, there has to be a lapse. Now, I am unable to say, sitting in Delhi, as to what the lapse is. My information base is what the television and the newspaper tell me. So let us wait for the inquiry.
Okay.
Was there a paucity of space? Was there badly deployed troops? Why were they in tentage? Why weren't they in barracks? Why were so many people huddled together? Why was kerosene kept next to the tank? Are all these issues with the inquiry will come out. For me or for you or for anybody else, to make a judgment sitting in our drawing rooms is very inappropriate.
No, we don't want to make a judgment. No, I'm glad.
But I clarify, Zaka, that 19 casualties is too heavy. We really need to find out what went wrong. I can't accept 19 casualties. It's like brigade headquarter camp, which of course is not that well defended as an infantry battalion is, but nevertheless, I have no excuse. So therefore, I will wait for the inquiry, and I'm quite certain the corrective action will be taken.
At least you've agreed in principle that something went wrong, and that's what led to...
I agree in totality.
Yeah, in totality.
I agree in totality.
Maybe on whose responsibility it was, let the court of inquiry decide whose responsibility it was. What I'm going to do now is to take another break. When we come back, the defense minister also said some very interesting things about China, and I'm going to ask Ambassador G Parthasarathy to weigh in on that. That segment coming up right after this break. We're back in a couple of minutes. Welcome back. We're discussing Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar's first ever interview post the surgical strike and post the Uri attack. He said some very interesting things about China. Let's play out that small chunk and we'll get both our guests back in to weigh in on that.
Is there a degree of disappointment in the government on the manner in which China has perhaps not supported India openly or come out in favor of our stand, whether it's the latest issue or issues in the past as well, in the recent past?
We are addressing those issues, but I think our relations with China are much better than they were earlier. The border management is much better, in spite of some erroneous reports which appear many times. I see some reports sometime about incursions where difference between transgression and incursion is not understood. But the incidents have dropped dramatically, and we have more confidence building measures and border meetings with China. So as far as defense is concerned, these are issues which are on a better track.
But how important would it be to engage with China given China's proximity to Pakistan?
I don't see this as a reason, because we have good relation with US, but that does not hamper our relationship, that does not stop us from developing, because our policy is autonomous policy and we intend to build good relations with China.
But is there a degree
and Prime Minister for that matter even did all the efforts to build relationship with Pakistan also.
Let's go back to our guests. Ambassador Parthasarathi, I mean, I look at the newspaper headlines post the strikes, and it talks about, just today's papers talk about China letting the technical hold come into play again for another 3 months against Masood Azhar, the same man whose organization India believes carried out the Uri attack. I mean, I'm just trying to understand on what basis is the defense minister saying that relations with China have improved?
I think first you will have to understand China. And let's be realistic about it. China has 5 times our GDP and economic power. It has a far more advanced domestic defense industry than we have got. The next point is it sees 2 powers in Asia which can challenge it, which it will contain. One is India and the other is Japan. The third, to a lesser degree, Vietnam. Now, China will do everything to strengthen forces inimical to us in our immediate neighborhood, and I mean everyone, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Bangladesh, you name it. And most importantly, its instrument of containing India is Pakistan. Pakistan's nuclear weapons are of Chinese designs, its missiles are of Chinese designs, its navy is going to be strengthened with 12 new submarines and frigates. So China has a clear policy of containing our influence. Let's have no illusions on that score, and therefore it will have to be dealt with accordingly. China has its problems. China is not trusted either by the United States and in defense matters by the Europeans. Okay. We have, on the other hand, excellent relations with the United States, with the European Union, and more Israel, and more importantly, we are now getting into closer collaboration with Japan. So technologically, this is what matters. We have the diplomatic capability, provided our defense mandarins mobilize that capability, which I'm afraid, I'm sorry to say, I can't be very confident about, having worked with defense in the past.
Okay, I have to completely wrap up on that. Unfortunately,
balance China.
Unfortunately,
the most
I have
important
to
point.
completely wrap up.
One last point.
10 seconds, please.
One last point. Just one last point. China will not find it in its interest to enter into a direct confrontation with us. And I must say, Mr. Modi has played his cards brilliantly, starting with Xi Jinping's visit, which he started in Gujarat.
Yeah.
China wants, at the same time, to talk to us, engage us. That's a process by which we can manage tensions. So yes, far more powerful, need to be balanced, but we can manage.
Okay, we'll see how it plays out, because, I mean, the way I see it, 6 months ago they blocked Masood Azhar's listing at the United Nations. They continue to do that, and I don't see in the foreseeable future them taking that off. That's just one issue, but you can look at a host of issues. I'm not sure on what basis the defense minister has made that comment that relations have improved. He did specifically talk about border incursions. I wish we had more time, but unfortunately completely out of time on this Sunday edition of India at 9. My thanks to Mr. G Parthasarathy and Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad. Thanks for tuning in. In case you want to catch in on that interview, you can go to our website, news18.com. Thanks for your time. Good night.